Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar, Unlock Customer 360 with Data Agility, Win More Customer Wallet Share. We certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. We at Atrium are super excited to co-host this session with the Snowflake team and provide our perspective on the topic, specifically for financial services companies. So this session will be recorded and available for viewing after today. And please, if along the way you have questions, just add them in the chat in the Zoom, and we'll either be addressing them kind of in line, or we'll save them towards the end and hit them up at that time. So let's go ahead and get started. In the interest of time, let me introduce our speakers today. From the Atrium team, we have myself. My name is Laura Cook. I'm the VP of Customer Engagement for Financial Services. Along with me, I have Ilya Stowick, who is our Director of Architecture for Data and Analytics. On the Snowflake team, we have Kevin Johnson, the Key Account Director, and Scott Harubi, one of the Key Solution Engineers Extraordinaire. And we are very, very honored today to have Greg Schuett from First National Bank of Omaha with us to tell us about his journey with Snowflake and unlocking the Customer 360 at FNBO. So for the agenda today, we'll begin with some of Atrium's perspective on AI and analytics within CRM, how it can drive business value, some of the common data-driven use cases that we're seeing in financial services. We'll then pivot to Scott from Snowflake, who will provide his thoughts in a quick demo, showing how companies break down their data silos, move into the cloud, and really harness the power of data within their organizations. Ilya will then take that a step further and show how once the data is in Snowflake, it can be used for business analytics with predictive and what-if capabilities using Tableau and Tableau CRM, showing how we can take those unlocked insights that last mile and get them in the hands of the business users. And then finally, Kevin will facilitate a Q&A session with Greg regarding First National Bank of Omaha's journey and lessons learned while implementing this layer of data agility in support of the Customer 360. So let me set the stage a bit and give you a quick introduction to Atrium and our data-driven mindset. So Atrium is a Salesforce and Snowflake implementation partner. Our focus is on what we call data-driven CRM. And what does that really mean? Well, for years, business users have been entering data into CRM systems, accounts, contacts, opportunities, service requests, complaints, financial advisor or producer production, etc. This has largely been a one-way street. They crank in data and they don't get a whole lot back. Well, our mission at Atrium is to change that and to unlock that data and provide actionable insights at the point in which people work in their CRM systems like Salesforce. So our approach really begins with understanding data and the data strategy, similar to what Scott will be showing with you shortly from a Snowflake perspective. We introspect that data. What are the patterns and correlations and the stories that the data tells, and align these insights to the company's business strategy. So it could be growing assets under management. It could be how do I get more clients to become a primary deposit holder? It could be improving the ramp time for new financial producers, or it could even be avoiding client attrition. The possibilities are endless, really. And then we expose these insights to guide and prioritize the key business processes executed by your relationship managers or financial professionals or wholesalers, so they can get the right actions at the right time. This insight to action mindset and approach is dramatically different from traditional systems implementation methodologies, and it certainly drives significantly higher business value. So let's talk about the opportunity created by AI and analytics and data-driven CRM. What does this really mean to companies? Well, according to a recent Gartner study, in 2021, AI will create $29 trillion of business value and 6.2 billion hours of worker productivity gains globally. And customer experience is the primary source of this AI-driven business benefit. So now whether these very, very large numbers make sense to you and your business, the real point is that AI and analytics is producing revenue benefits and it is making workers more productive. And that results in real bottom line dollars for your business. However, there's challenges to achieving this. It's hard, right? Over 70% of the companies surveyed said that they have not had a data-driven organization established and they don't have a defined data strategy. And 58% also say they are not competing in the marketplace with AI and analytics at all. And an even higher percentage said that people and processes were the key drivers of these challenges, not the underlying technology. So what are companies doing to realize these benefits and overcome these challenges? Let's explore this a little bit further, starting with how do financial services companies really compete using AI analytics? So at Atrium, we've found several very common use cases across our customer base. For financial services firms, whether you're a bank, an insurance provider, broker, or a wealth management firm, we see common patterns of use cases to drive insights within the business processes to guide daily priorities. So let's chat through just a handful of examples. Lead and referral scoring is a great one. It's aligned to new client or new producer acquisition objectives. Understanding the patterns that indicate a higher conversion potential and providing that insight to the business to prioritize the reach out is huge. It's not always a first in, first out set of priority that's going to get you to your business goals. This concept of scoring can also be applied to relationships. What are the centers of influence that I should be spending most of my time with for the biggest benefit? Or the relationship scoring can be focused internally on bakers and advisors. Who are the top performers and what behaviors are they doing to make them top performers? And can we emulate that success across the board? Or if you're a wholesaler, what early onboarded producers have the highest potential to be like your top performers? Another example, which is a great one, is growing wallet share or likelihood for next products or services. Addressing the white space within your book of business. What if you were able to quickly visualize where there are new product and service or household opportunities to expand the relationships with your current clients? What if you knew this opportunity by product and offering? You could quickly run campaigns, you could understand the potential for which this offering had the highest likelihood to move forward. There's a much different groove than just adhering to regular calling cadences that most companies have. So the list of potential use cases is long. I'm sure you get the idea by now. Ilya will show you an example of kind of pushing these insights as it relates to client attrition risk and overall impact of assets under management for a territory or region. So let's start to talk through some more detail. How do we make AI and analytic business benefits a reality? I'm going to turn it over to Scott from Snowflake, who will talk us through the power of Snowflake to organize and facilitate your data strategy. And then Ilya will show you an example of once you have that data in Snowflake, how do you unlock it to actionable insights to the business users? So Scott?
Thank you, Laura. I want to talk a bit about what the problem is, right? Typically, when you decide you want to be more data-driven and gain insights out of data, it's like, how do I bring all that data together, right? Data is typically in silos. It can be your own enterprise data, right? Your EMR, your HR data, could be your CRM data. It can be third-party data, supplier data, partner data, right? It all sits in its own data silos and makes it difficult to bring that data together and gain insights out of it. So that's why Snowflake was created, right? When you go to the next slide. The data cloud is a concept that was built on top of Snowflake, and it really is a global network that breaks down the barriers between those data silos. Think of it as a global distributed network that enables organizations to instantly have live access to data, whether it's their own data or third-party data. And this can be sharing data out or accessing third-party data sets as well. So what is the data cloud? On the next slide. It really is the Snowflake platform, right? Our unique platform, which I'll dive into the components here in a minute, but it's all the content that has been added. Snowflake has seen explosive adoption, right, and growth in the marketplace over the last 4 to 5 years. And in large part, it is because of how simple we make accessing data, focusing on the data, but bringing that data together. And so our customers have added to the data cloud. They brought their content, their data, not only in point-to-point data shares between organizations, but through a public accessible data marketplace, which I'll illustrate in the demo for you. But it really has changed the way organizations collaborate, right? And the way they work together and bring their data together so that they can all benefit from the insights gained from that data. Next slide, please. So let's look under the hood a little bit. we'll keep this high level, but Snowflake's platform is really designed to solve and simplify 6 major workloads, right? Typical traditional data lake and data warehouse separation goes away in Snowflake. Snowflake can bring all data from all data sources to it. That can be structured, semi-structured, unstructured data, all living harmoniously inside of Snowflake's platform. So now you have the ability to do complex data engineering in Snowflake, enable data science to work faster and more efficiently, even run data applications on Snowflake. And of course, data sharing behind the scenes is different, right? It's not SATP, it's not import exports, it's not API calls. It is live direct access to data that is secured and governed by your organization. And we can run on any of the 3 cloud providers. So we are cloud-based. We run in AWS, Azure, and Google. We also enable you to run on any of those clouds, move data between those clouds seamlessly and easily on our back end. So let's take a look at what it might look like in the FinServ space, right? This is a sample workflow of what we typically see in customers, and this is just a small piece of it, but you can bring data from organizations like Salesforce, right? CRM data, ServiceNow, things like that. Access third-party data sets through live data sharing, and then bring all your traditional and modern data types in via structured, semi-structured, unstructured data. Bring all that data into Snowflake, and then use the power of Snowflake to, in real time, transform it, engineer it, curate that data, and deliver it to where all the value is gained, right? Which is on the right side of the screen, right? Whether that's with Tableau CRM, which they're going to illustrate for you later. But it really is about allowing you to focus on the data and not the underlying infrastructure, not the underlying platform, right? We make the platform very simple for you to use and really take away any limitations, whether it be volume of data, volume of compute, things like that. We give you true elasticity and scale. So with that, I'm going to jump over and show you, if you want to stop sharing, I will go ahead and share out my screen. I'm going to show you just how easy Snowflake makes it for access to data. So let me share my screen here. All right, you can see it, Laura, I'm assuming. All right, perfect. So I'm in the Snowflake UI, and I've gone to what we call the Snowflake public marketplace. So this is the data marketplace is a construct inside of Snowflake that allows for our Snowflake customers to basically announce that, hey, we have data sets, data services, data products available to consume through Snowflake. And they have built these pathways for you because it's so much simpler to access and share data inside of Snowflake. So when you go to the marketplace, and you can do this from just the public web by just searching Snowflake data marketplace, and it can take you to a public facing side. But from the UI, I can actually access these data sets instantly and start querying them right away. And I'll illustrate this compared to like what it might take you today if you wanted to access a third-party data set in the FinServ space that's relevant to you. It might take you days, weeks, likely months to create those data pipelines, get that data into your environment, and gain any kind of value out of it. Well, in Snowflake, it's as simple as going to the data marketplace. We have data categorized by all sorts of different categories here. I'll pick financial to try to keep it relevant for you guys. And I can go down and grab, let's say I want to grab Canoma's Banking Data Atlas, right, which is 200 banking related data sets. When you click on it, they will tell you what data is in here. They give you a nice listing of what the data is, the data types, even the schema of that data, because it will be queryable data. It will be in structured format for you to augment your data sets. And it'll even give you some sample queries to understand how to query against their data. But in Snowflake, because of our unique data sharing, I don't actually have to move that data into my account. When I click on get data, I'm initiating a process on the back end that gives my Snowflake account permission to securely access the filtered data that the data provider has granted for this particular data set. So I can change the database name if I want to something that makes sense to me, and internally I'll keep it the same for the demo purposes. But I click on get data, and that's it. Like, I instantly have a connection. Now, as the data provider, in this case, Canoma, updates data, it's instantly updated because I'm just accessing the live data. So there's no constant ELT pipelines. There's no more imports and exports or API code to maintain. I can now simply click on query data, and this is our worksheets tab where we can actually run it, but you can see the banking data Atlas database is here. This is a shared data set from Canoma that I just subscribed to. And now I can actually run queries against it. I can build my own queries against it where I can join this with my data and gain new insights and new value out of it. And I can do this in a matter of minutes, right? With a few clicks of a mouse, and then taking the time to understand the schema versus days, weeks, or potentially even months, right? With other traditional data sharing mechanisms. So this has really unlocked the power of collaboration between organizations and really improved not only the amount of value, but greatly increased the time to value. So with Snowflake, you can think about bringing all your data from all your data sources and unlocking the data that's out there through your suppliers, your partners, your customers, and really gain additional value, at almost unlimited scale. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Atrium so they can illustrate, now that you've got all this great data and new data, what you can actually do with it from the analytical and AI end. So I'll stop sharing here.
Great. All right, thanks everyone. So as Scott said, we're really going to just take this into, now that we've unlocked this data, how do we actually bring this to the business so that they can take action and drive the business forward, as Laura had mentioned earlier. So just to give you some context, as we continue the story, we've now taken the data, we've gotten it within Snowflake, we're augmenting it with third-party data. We have all of our data in there, maybe sharing some data with some of our peers. And what we want to do is really start to see, where can we take that action? So as we look at this, we're looking at wealth and asset management, but really it pertains to anyone that has customers. And we're looking at, if we have high and ultra high net worth individuals that are planning to change advisors in the next 3 years, and we know that acquiring those particular individuals is 25 times the cost of retaining them, what do we do? How do we actually not only see the data, but actually get some AI and machine learning in there to help us predict key client likelihood of attrition or increase customer retention by a few points? What does that mean to your business? And how do we have a consistent way to measure a customer's impact? And so what we want to do is walk you through just a executive and leadership dashboard, right? So we can see how they will go through progressive disclosure to understand all of the aspects of their business that are under that need attention, and what to do about them. What are some of those things that we could key on, but then also what are some of the predictions that the tool can actually provide for us. So I'm going to stop here, hand it over to Ilya, and he's going to walk us through what that looks like in real time, so you can see how you can take that action on the data through analytics that you've unlocked in Snowflake.
Thank you, Braden. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Like Scott, to conserve bandwidth, I may need to turn off my camera, unfortunately. So we have a client attrition risk where we're looking at it from an executive perspective for wealth managers. There's several key metrics that we would look at in discussing with them in terms of what are our assets under management that are actually at risk, what percentage of our client base is at risk, what is our total book of business, and what clients have a high cross-sell propensity. That last metric coming into play because it can help reduce the risk, right? So these are folks that maybe have high net promoter scores, and there's more products that they could be sold, and so it's money being left on the table. So going across, we can see where we stand today, right? So 274 million at risk, where we were a year ago, and how much that amount has changed. This is being scored using AI, machine learning, right? Einstein discovery in Tableau. So this amount, based on certain criteria and models that were developed, are being scored so we can see how it's changing over time. And it's bucketed into ones that have essentially attrited, ones that are actionable, right? The clients that could be saved, and everyone else. This also can pose an additional model in terms of who are you likely to cross-sell to help make those clients be stickier. Coming down, we can see different regions and who's responsible for them, as well as the assets that are at risk and total assets being managed. When we look, we can see Bonita, for example, has a lot of money being left on the table. She's number one for cross-sell propensity. Down here, we have insights that could take place for individual teams, so we can drill in and see, is it a problem across the team or across the region? Is it with a specific individual? We can even come in here and see, in Nikki Leach's case, it's only 2 accounts that have essentially attrited, making up that entire bucket of money. We also have the ability to look at some additional sort of mini KPIs like client advisor ratio, the median assets under management, how many clients there are with a cross-sell propensity. In this particular case, Bonita, who is leaving the most money on the table, is 2x that for her client advisor ratio. So she might not be reaching out and touching those accounts, or her team isn't as often as they need to. And so we can come in, drill in perhaps a little further, right? So we have Nikki, who's also leaving money on the table, a higher likelihood to attrit, right? So on Bonita's team, she has the most, but we have the ability to then come in and live, for example, do what if analysis, right? So if there's specific variables we wanted to manipulate for her accounts, like are they saturated, or could we sell them more or sell them less? You know, what if we reach out to them more frequently? What if we change what retention offers we're giving them? There's variables we can manipulate that the model could then turn around, and using what it developed via ML or machine learning and AI, score these and its impact live on her individual accounts. Or if you wanted to bump it up, aggregate it, right, by region, by director, whatever level you wanted to look at this information. And then you could see the impact of, oh, if we changed it to a saturated cross-sell propensity, for example, it improved in most cases. There's actually 3 instances where it got worse. Maybe we weren't reaching out to those accounts as often as we needed to. And so selling them even more actually made things worse. So that is just a quick run through of how executives through various levels of leadership could use AI and ML in Tableau to get an idea as to how large a problem it is, where the problem might lie, and what they can do about it. But we'd be happy to answer any questions that you folks might have if you want to post them in the chat.
Ilya, thank you so much. Love to see how you can take the power of the data that you've gathered within Snowflake and really push that forward to actionable insights for the business users. So with that, let's shift gears a little bit and let's hear Greg's story. So Kevin, I'll turn that over to you to kind of guide through Q&A to really highlight the wonderful journey that Greg has been on at First National Bank of Omaha.
Awesome, thanks. Appreciate it. Greg, thanks for being with us. As we get into it, can you just do a quick introduction of First National Bank and you and your role there?
I sure can. Thanks for having me today. So First National Bank of Omaha is an independent, family-owned, mid-sized regional bank. We're focused on the long view instead of the next quarter. It's been our recipe for success for generations. For more than 160 years, our holding company, which is First National of Nebraska, has grown to nearly 5,000 employees with locations in 7 states and $24 billion in assets. FNBO has been ranked one of Forbes' best banks in America, the most small business-friendly credit card company by Wallet Hub, and Bankrate's top mortgage lender in Nebraska. We use this success to invest millions back into our communities, focusing on key areas of need such as housing, financial literacy, and local economy. For myself, I'm the Director of IT for Enterprise Data and Analytics. I've been with First National Bank going on 4 years. In my role, I'm currently working to enable a cloud-first data strategy, break down data silos, enable capabilities to build trusted data sources, and bring new capabilities for the business in the areas of machine learning and business intelligence.
Awesome. So you've spent about half of your time at First National working with Snowflake. So tell us how you got started on the Snowflake journey. What was the business case for Snowflake, or the catalyst that brought you onto the Snowflake platform?
Sure. The catalyst for us was on our journey with Snowflake was really a life cycle event that was facing us. As I'm sure a lot of people are going through these days, we had an on-premise big data appliance that was really end of life. And we really needed to take a decision on, are we going to invest in a lot of hardware on-premise, or is this our chance to take the leap to the cloud? Going through that approval process really involved, building that business case with our business partners and doing a pretty detailed cost analysis. Other factors and considerations we took into consideration as far as that approval included our strategy around modernizing our technical platforms and just really shifting to a cloud-first mindset.
Love it. So where did you guys start from? What were the systems, infrastructure? Can you kind of share where you guys started?
Sure. Our starting point was a niche Microsoft big data appliance called PDW, or Parallel Data Warehouse. It's a turnkey solution with hardware, software, and OS all integrated into one offering that was supported by HP and Microsoft.
And how are you phasing this out?
Sure. So for us, we really prioritized our migration to Snowflake by our source systems. We have 80 to 100, I would say, source systems that we load data from daily, weekly, monthly. And so we really took a look at those on size and business value, and then prioritize those accordingly. We looked at moving the ETL over a course of about 8 months, from roughly June of 20 to February of 21. And then as sources were moved over, we would do technical validation and then work with our business partners on functional validation. We would shut off what sources we could as we went along, but also understand that a lot of user content is dependent on multiple sources, so you really couldn't decommission a lot of those until all the sources were over there. So we really had the data over by the end of February this past year, and we completed the decommission of our Microsoft appliance by the end of March this year.
Awesome. So this was obviously a pretty involved project for the team. So it wasn't just you doing all the work by yourself. So what does your team look like? How many folks do you have helping? And can you share a little insight there?
Yeah, great question. No, quite the opposite. The team definitely did the heavy lifting. So, currently the team's growing to about 20 folks. We've got one core team and then 3 data squads. The team heavily consists of BI developers, and then obviously, the folks that are helping support the delivery. So Scrum Masters, analysts, solution architects, and then we even have an intern. And they were definitely doing the heavy lifting. So.
Awesome. Well, let's get into some meat that folks will want to hear about. So what are some wins that you have thus far? Now you've been live for roughly 6 months, or more than that, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, in a lot of ways, this was a tech modernization play, right? Having a stable and scalable platform to build our future data program on was our number one business use case, right? So from an uptime and support perspective, we're saving between 10 and 15% of the team's time from break fix issues and dealing with hardware, software, OS patching, and things like that can now be focused on delivering business value projects. And in addition to that, and in a lot of ways for us, I guess at IT, the more important part is really just the positive feedback we've received from our business users around the speed of their queries and their reports. They've seen a vast improvement, sometimes upwards to 75% or 75x actually improvement in speed. For us on the IT side, we've seen vast improvements on the time it takes us to load the data as well. So a lot of, for what we were going at it with our use case as far as scalable, stable platform, 99.95% uptime compared to what we had previously, we're definitely getting everything out of it that we were looking for.
That's exciting. That's a big deal. Any lessons you've learned or advice that you would give to folks who are listening in that may not be as far down the path as you are, things that you would do differently if you were to do it all over?
Yeah, great question. I think for starters, Kevin, I would say, bring in InfoSec early and often. For us, it was not just Snowflake, but we were also making the journey to AWS kind of at the same time. So we're building the rails while moving to Snowflake. So there's just a lot of new there. So bringing InfoSec in early, just to make sure everyone's got a clear understanding of how we're going to be safe in the cloud. I think that was towards the top of the list. And Snowflake was a great partner in doing that. We had top to tops with our CISO and your CISO, and that really helped pave the way, I think, for helping us understand, where we're going. Second of all, and it's probably a given, but it's a large, complex project. Budget time for it maybe taking a little bit longer, maybe learning along the way, maybe pivoting on, maybe some of your solution approaches and some things like that. For us, I think we originally anticipated it to be about 9 months, and I think in the end it took us closer to 12. So just, I guess, giving you some room. It's new technology. It's a new frontier. So just giving yourself some room to maneuver there. Maybe understanding some of the ancillary costs around the move to Snowflake. For us, it was more on the AWS side. So, understanding like Macy as a DLP and the costs associated to moving that data through AWS and S3. You think about a lot of times S3 storage and some things like that, but maybe some of those ancillary costs, making sure you've got those budgeted, forecasted. They're typically not huge, but definitely something you want to account for. And then I think one of our biggest learnings is it's not about doing the same thing you did on-prem, but doing it in the cloud. For us, we made a conscientious decision not to refactor our ETL or change ETL tools as part of this migration to Snowflake. And in hindsight, perhaps we should have taken a harder look at that maybe that was the time to maybe rip the Band-Aid off and change, our ETL as well. So just maybe consider what all is worth taking on when you make the move to Snowflake. And then maybe lastly, Snowflake was a win for us because we really were able to say this is our number one priority. This is a huge transformational project for the business and for IT, and we're really going to say this is our number one priority. And with very few exceptions, we had all hands on deck for the entire duration of this project, solely focused on Snowflake, which I'm sure like many people out there, there's a lot of competing priorities, a lot of business value driven projects that we kind of had to say are going to need to wait until we can get this project done. This is the most important thing for us right now. And I think that focus really helped us, achieve what we did in that 12-month time frame. So maybe lastly, we found the training and engagement from Snowflake throughout the process very valuable. We did training up front, just kind of Snowflake 101, And then at the end of our implementation, we did a 360, which is kind of a health check slash, best practices review, which is we look to spend the balance of this year operationalizing the platform and looking at new capabilities, really got us off on a strong footing with the platform.
That's awesome. And your last point actually dovetails nicely into my final question to you. So what's your vision for data and analytics at FNBO?
Great question. As it pertains to Snowflake, to me, Snowflake's a strategic platform for us and for the bank. It opens the door for us to modernize how we acquire, move data within, and then send data out to third parties. Snowflake's also the foundation for building out our data management and data governance capabilities. We're also looking to leverage Snowflake to build out a data lakehouse and support next level BI and predictive analytics. Snowflake is going to allow us to be more innovative with our ability to build applications also within Snowflake. So it's really the core and foundation for where we're looking to take our data program and our vision for data of the future.
That's awesome. It sounds like you probably should have bought a lot more Snowflake early on. Just kidding.
I mean, clearly, you can never have enough Snowflake.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Greg. I appreciate the partnership. Certainly, I've enjoyed working with you for the last 2 years, and I'm thrilled and excited about the direction you all are headed and what is coming in the future, because you guys are doing some really innovative stuff. So thanks for sharing and being a part of today.
Yes, Greg, thank you so much for sharing your journey, like super insightful. I loved your point about getting InfoSec involved early. I'm sure that's top of mind to most people on this call, right? How do you get past InfoSec? And so, especially in financial services. So maybe you'll be hit up with some more detailed follow-ups after that. And I also loved how you viewed Snowflake as transformational, because it really is. It's setting the foundation to really drive those data-driven insights. So thank you. We certainly appreciate you sharing with us. So many of you on the call may be wondering, okay, that's great now, but what do I do? How do we get started? And so just some very high level perspectives on, how you get started on your journey. And many of you might be in different points in the journey overall. But we recommend first and foremost, kind of think through your data strategy. And as Greg said, Snowflake can help be the guide for this. They can help you identify, how do you break down those data silos? How do you set up your data strategy and your governance mechanisms, et cetera? Getting that foundation super, super important. And how do you decommission some of those existing silos? But in parallel to this, we recommend that you really start thinking through your use cases. Like, what are your specific use cases to drive the right business value at your company? We certainly gave you some ideas today of the use cases that we see around attrition or strength of relationship or lead scoring or white space. And then certainly to plot your journey, right? Our recommendation here is don't start with the expectation that you're going to immediately deploy data-driven insights that can completely automate a business process with recommendations and off you go, right? It is a journey. So we always recommend starting with more descriptive inline analytics, driving actionable priorities in the business users, getting the predictive insights out there, getting your users used to those predictions, and then looking at the automated recommendations and actioning. But last but not least, and most importantly, is to start. No one's data is perfect, right? You're going to have challenges to go through in terms of, legal risk compliance clearance and things like that. But start that process. Begin the journey. It is a journey by all means. So at this time, we didn't see any questions come into the chat room, but if you do have questions, feel free to put them into the chat, or we certainly can follow up with you later, or feel free to just come off of mute and ask. So I'll pause for a little bit there. But if not, certainly thank you for your time today. As I mentioned, we will be providing this recording. We certainly hope this webinar was insightful to you on your journey, and we certainly thank you for your time.